And like, why do you think that people want to pull these statistics about Black people and not care about anything else or other statistics where other ethnicities are committing crime?
The natural defense, the natural defense in that is because people are more inclined. People are more inclined to. People are more inclined to want to defend themselves when they feel attacked,
Mm,
right? So they
yeah.
start taking it personal, and so instead of just being like, "Oh, let me," uh, you start taking it personal. You start thinking about, "Oh, like let me," instead of saying like, "Let me look and check my own cultural biases." We want to go into a place where we want to just immediately start trying to defend ourselves, and that's what people do. Well, there's no way they can say this about me and say anything about that. You know what I'm saying? Because they do this, they do that, they do that. It's like my wife and I, we practice this thing is that when someone, if my wife comes to me and says, babe, like you hurt my feelings, like the proper thing for me to do is for me to say, how did I hurt your feelings and what can I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? That's the proper response. I'm not supposed to be like, oh, well, yesterday you hurt me or the other day you did this. That's not the way that it's supposed to happen. If someone says that you hurt, that they've been hurt, you address that right then and there. But what a lot of people want to do is they want to throw these statistics out is because they feel victimized by being told those things. Like, is your name Derek Chauvin? No, then why are you acting like it is your name? Like, why are you acting like that was you that did that? Why are you acting, you know what I'm saying? People take stuff so personal like that they can't even consult like their own cultural position. They want to defend that cultural position. And that's a lot of the reason why we end up getting into those kind of discussions because nobody wants to accept that that's the kind of perception that's out there. Let me read this to you real quick. This is
Yeah,
from
go
one of my
ahead.
books here in college, in my multicultural counseling class. It said this: whites' psychological responses to racism and white privilege are linked to how they orient themselves with people of color. Responses can include number one, a minimizing the notion that racism and white privilege exist in general or for particular individuals. So number one, we hear that all the time, right? They want to debunk the fact that white privilege exists. Number two, locating instances in which people of color are to blame for and white people are deserving of the experiences they respectively have, right? So we just talked about that. Instances where the people of color are to blame for it, right? They're to blame for it. And then third, drawing attention to specific instances of racism and white privilege in a general society or their personal experiences. And so what do they want to do? They want to debunk it and draw attention to specific instances like that, like we just mentioned. So instead of saying, hey, this happened, they'll say, well, Black people kill themselves at 93%. So what do you want to say about that? You know what I'm saying? Instead of addressing the actual issue. And so I think it's a personality flaw. There's a personality flaw. If I go and I talk to a white person about police brutality on black Americans, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have one or two groups of people. You're gonna have three groups. You're gonna have the group one that says, hey, I don't quite understand, but help me understand. You're gonna have the second group that says, you know what, you're right, and that is a truth, and I'm gonna stand with you to make sure that we see the change that, you know, be the change that we wish to see. Right. And you're gonna have that third group that says, well, yeah, you want to talk about that, but you don't talk about how all the blacks are killing all the blacks, right? And you start breaking it down. And so you have a group that says, I don't know, but I like to know. A group that says, I do know, and I want to be a part of the change. And a group that says, yeah, I know, and I hear what you're saying, but nah, y'all do other stuff, so that's not important.
Mm.
And that's where we kind of get to, is that people got to really consult their own cultural bias, because when you start to, they start identifying with the person who committed the crime. They start identifying with that person, being like, well, you know what? And like that one guy said, remember on that post, and he was talking about, I can understand how the police officers can feel this way. Remember we were talking about that,
Yeah,
Shelton?
yeah, yeah.
Old boy said that. And it's like, you start identifying, like he just killed somebody. What do you mean you identify with them? You know what I'm saying? But we don't want to consult. We don't want to consult the fact that people will say, oh, well, America, you know, slavery happened all this many years ago, you know, this many years ago. You know what I'm saying? Then this many years ago, then we should bury that. That's old stuff. I didn't own any slaves, yada, 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 yada. But why are you still carrying the same mentality? You're still carrying the same mentality, because whenever you address something like that, your first inclination is to feel as though you're a victim when someone claims to be a victim. If someone says, if a girl comes, like Americans do it, like a girl says, oh, I got raped, they'll be like, well, you know what? That young boy's life is ruined now. Good job, you whore. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how we do stuff here. We wanna deflect stuff from the present issue because it makes us, it negates the fact that a lot of American history is, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of white individuals doing a lot of messed up stuff. You know what I'm saying? And we don't, whenever we want to address that, no one's saying that racial injustices or stuff like that or racial problems don't happen when in other cultural or racial demographics. No one's saying that. But when it's your turn to address what's going on with you, to deflect, it's just like what that comment just said, Deshaun, is you're exposing yourself into where your cultural standing really is, and exposing yourself to what your position really is on these issues, because you don't want to take the time to say, man, you know what? We do have a history of doing this. How can we change?
Yeah.
What can we do to be a part of it? Instead, whenever I talk to someone, my finger is like, you see that? I got a bicep on my finger. You see that? I've been smashing that block button. Smashing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if I'm at the point now, I'll talk to you about this issue and you start to immediately, they don't even address it anymore. If you look at all the conversations you've had with white people on these issues, they don't even address it. The first thing that they want to do is flip a statistic on you.
Yep.
The first thing, like, why are you so hurt to where you can't even have this conversation without trying to point fingers elsewhere? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a large part. That's a large part of the issue, man. I said a lot of stuff, but
no,
that's a
Deshaun,
large part of the issue.
I want to ask you this, Deshaun, and I know you're not